It's green for go, they're racing. He says go, he says ta-da, and Tiger Tara roars away from them on the home turn. Here comes another big boil over. Equine athleticism at its best. The king is in the castle once more. This is in one race, the rest are almost in another post. She is a star with a capital S. It's going to be a triple treat, a miracle three-peat. Ladies and gentlemen, you have witnessed history here at Menangle. What about that?
It's getting right up on the sprint lane and it's going to bolt in.
Hello, Paul Cochrane with you. Welcome to another episode of the Sprint Lane, the Eureka series. This is such an exciting format and it is on our doorstep. Not too long to go now, September 2, the biggest race in the world's richest harness race, the TAB Eureka, will be held at Tabcorp Park, Menangle. One of the gentlemen who has got a very large stake in this race, Jarrod Alchin, welcome to this special episode, mate.
Yep, welcome, Paul.
Mate, it's good to have you. And when we say you've got a special part to play, mate, you're responsible for, I guess, suiting up one of the key contenders. And look, let's be honest, they're all key contenders, all 10 horses that are going to line up on the night. But you've got one of the local hopes. You're going to be carrying the flag for people here at Menangle with My Ultimate Ronnie. Exciting times, mate.
Yeah, no, it's very exciting. Good just to be in the race. The lead-up's been great and starting to build up now, so starting to get exciting.
Listeners of this show, My Ultimate Ronnie will be familiar with My Ultimate Ronnie. The journey's been one that has been carefully tracked since we saw him burst on the scene as a really exciting 2-year-old, but in many respects in the shadow of one that's very similarly named, of My Ultimate Byron. They came through together. We always talked about My Ultimate Ronnie being potentially the better horse when they got a little bit older, and it's kind of panned out that way.
Yeah, it has. He had a lot of soundness issues early on, and we always liked him, but we had to bring him nice and slow and carefully, and he went in and out a couple of times because he just went sore and had to put him out. And I didn't think he'd race as a 2-year-old, but he did. He come back and he raced in the Breds Challenge final and probably nearly should have won it. Byron got in his road. So Byron led and sort of Byron had probably run his race before the race in the retention barn. He just carried on in there.
Didn't like it, did he?
Nah, just carried on like a Fruit Loop like he is. So we probably, as it turned out, we got the driving instructions wrong there. We probably should have held the front on Ronnie, but he was unlucky there, and we knew then that we had a serious horse to come back at 3, and then the idea was to go to the New South Wales Derby, but once again he sort of went sore and had to put him back out and miss a bit of time. And he's come back now, and we've got a pretty good stretch out of him soundness wise.
So I mean, this was getting said for so long around that time. It was like, gee, Byron's good. Byron's a gun 2-year-old, but gee, we think Ronnie's the one that's going to be a better horse at 3 and 4. And I remember talking to you at the time. You thought that. I remember sitting where we are right now in the studio at Menangle and Ryan Phelan saying it really openly in the coverage, and other people were saying it around the place. I mean, I'm certainly not, in the know enough to be able to spot that. What was it that made you think this is going to be a better horse down the track?
Byron was just a horse that got up and went. He was very revved up. He was on his toes. He was a Sun Beach somewhere. He was a jump and go sort of horse. Where Ronnie was very laid back and only ever did what he had to in track work unless you really worked 2 or 3 or 4 together, and that would buzz him up a bit. But if you worked him on his own, like the yearlings would go quicker than him. He's just a very laid back customer. But we put a race bike on him one day here. We worked a few together, but we put a race bike on him and worked him with a few of the better race horses at the time, and we just sat him last. And a fella that worked for me at the time, we just got him to drive him, Gary Hargraves. And I said, you just sit last and follow us around, and if he keeps up, he keeps up. Anyway, halfway up the straight, he pulled him out and he just put 4 lengths on us. I was like, whoa, where'd that come from?
Yeah, right.
It was sort of probably the turning point, you know what I mean? He always felt all right, but never sort of could get him up on the bit because he was such a laid-back customer. And probably that day there was the day where I said, I better drive him from now on.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So you sort of, was that a moment where you looked and went, oh wow, we got something serious on our hands.
That was
here.
probably the first time, that we thought he might be a bit better than average.
Yep.
Because he worked with a couple of Metro horses that day, and he was only a 2-year-old, albeit they had heavy bikes on and he had a race bike, but it was just the way he done it.
Yeah, okay. So he's gone through. I mean, he's gone around the place and he's won good races, across the state. He's been up to Queensland and he's done well there. When this race was flagged and the conditions of the TAB Eureka come along, did you look at it and go, well, gee, I reckon I've got one that probably could be a contender in this race and slot holders might be interested in?
Well, at the time, I thought we got a few.
Yeah.
But things were always going to have to fall into place. And, like we had Madrid at the time and Byron and a 3-year-old that I got a lot of time for, My Ultimate Snowy. So we saw, and Ronnie, we had 4 of them there that, things had to fall into place and they had to be going good at the time. But we had 4 there that were sort of hopes of making the field. And just to get one in it is a great thrill.
So how does it play out? Like, you don't own the horse. Someone else owns it. You're the trainer. Someone's a slot holder. How do the 3 parties all come together and reach an agreement that Ronnie's going to take a spot on behalf of one of the slot holders? Yeah,
well, he had a few people sort of ringing up and just inquiring about what the plans were and all that sort of thing. But Scott and Jody from Tumby Park, they actually went to Europe right when the negotiations were starting. So they it was a bit difficult there for a while, but we come to an agreement with Rob, who's been terrific all the way through, and still now he's terrific. Like we went to Queensland and he didn't probably have the best 2 runs up there, although he wasn't terrible. I know he can be better, and Rod's been very understanding, and so they sat down when Scott got home from Europe, and I think that actually might have happened over there, but they had a phone hook up and got the deal done, and it was good just to get that out of the way. We didn't have to worry about chasing our tail, and which has worked out perfect because got a little bit sick in Queensland, and were able to come back and give him a week off when he come back and get over that. And if we hadn't have had that slot locked in, we would have had to have him probably up and going and in the Singo and races like that. So it worked out good to be able to get him locked in early.
And how much do you think that being based here and racing so well and, Tackle Parkman angle seems to suit Ronnie, how much do you think that played into the slot holders' decision-making?
Oh, I don't think that had any part to play in it, to be fair. I just think, his run in the Chariots was sort of a real eye-catcher. Then he went to Wagga, and his 2 runs at Wagga were terrific. So, Rob has horses himself, and he sort of saw something in him, and his couple of runs where he ran second to Leap to Fame were really good, albeit he had his chance to beat him. Leap to Fame was just too good, but to get so close to him, I think that there are another couple of runs that Rob liked. So, I'm just grateful that he's saw something in the horse and allowed me and Scott and Jody to be on the journey with him.
So does that then, when that's squared away, like as the trainer, did you then sort of suddenly get the notebook out and go, righto, what's the journey to September 2 look like? Did you start to map it out then? Or?
No, not really. We sort of just didn't want to over-race him. That was the one thing we didn't want to do, was over-race him because of his soundness issues. We'd planned not to take him to Queensland. As it turned out, we probably should have stayed with that plan, but the lucrative money up there lures you up there. So we went up there, and his first run I wasn't disappointed with his first run. He just needed the run, and he had a real good blow after it. And then he sort of got greasy heel a bit up there and just got a little bit sick, and I thought he was back right just before his last start up there, and then the day before he busted out in greasy heel again, and just when they're doing that, their blood's not 100% right. So we brought him back and pulled some blood out of him and give him a week off, and he's jumping out of his skin now. As you saw this morning on the track, he was pretty lively.
Yeah, well, you're right. So this morning we've just done some publicity stuff with our new ambassador for the Eureka. Great to have Benji Marshall on board. Just a calm, beautiful, placid horse that just was happy to meet someone new on track, wasn't he?
Yeah, like he's pretty laid back horse, but this morning was probably about when he got out there and got veined up, and he thought he was going out to race, not to get a photo shoot. He was looking for some ladies, not Benji.
I guess that's the thing, isn't it? They're probably like they get into default mode and go, oh, okay, this is the track. This is where I do my thing.
Or when he's on the track, Ronnie? He's usually got the bike on him and ready to go, not walking up the straight doing photo shoots. So, but yeah, no, he handled it all pretty well. But as you could see today, his coat's glowing and
he looks in good nick.
Yeah, he looks very fit. Like he's that's one thing the trip to Queensland really tightened him up, and he's come back a lot fitter.
So what do you do? So you got 3 weeks or so to the race. What do you do to maintain that trainer? So
the plan, we'll give him a bit more of a serious hit out here Saturday morning, and then he'll trial Wednesday, the following Wednesday, and then all going well, he'll race the week before the Eureka. There's a 2,300 metre race here at Menangle and into the Eureka.
Yeah, okay. So you kind of have mapped it out a bit in a way. Like
ideally, if he hadn't have been sick, we would have given him another run instead of just having the one run. Like ideally, I would have liked to have had 2 runs leading in, but so we'll just fit in a trial and run. But he's fit. Like that's one thing the trip did do to Queensland. It really tightened him up, and he had a hit out yesterday morning, and it's probably the best his heart rate's ever been.
Yep.
So he's fit.
One of the great teams over the last couple of years here, particularly in Menangle, has been you and Cameron Hart, and the success you two have had together. On some great athletes, equine athletes here. At what point do you touch base with Cam them and say?
Cam's too busy partying in Europe at the moment. So,
but at what point did you square that arrangement away? Because you've confirmed that Cam will take the drive on Ronnie.
I sort of that was probably for him and Scott. I just do the training and leave the rest up to Scott and Jody. They can speak to Cam about that sort of thing. But like Cam's had, I think he's probably drove him most of his starts. I think Will Rickson drove him once. I think Chris Geary drove him once. I think.
Well, Cam was driving Byron.
Yeah,
Cam, when they were both going head to head.
Well, they were missing one another early on, but in that final, Chris Geary drove him, and I think he probably, I really think Cam would have drove Ronnie over Byron in that final. But I think Scott really wanted him to stick with Byron just because of the rap he had on him. But really, the 2 runs before that, Ronnie went 154 around Penrith, breaking the record for 2-year-olds.
Yeah.
And then he come out and went 150 in the qualifier, and he done it with his head on his chest and the earplugs still in, where Byron, he's a revvy horse and then he'll switch off and you got to really flick him up. But, so I think probably Cam, if he had a choice, he did get a choice, but I think
it's harder. Well, it's hard to change.
Yeah, well, Byron
through a campaign, isn't it?
Byron hadn't been beat.
Yeah. So what is it about you and Cameron Hart that, obviously you need the good horse to be able to achieve success, but you two have been such a dynamic duo, a successful duo. What is it about your partnership that you like as the trainer, having him as the driver?
Well, I used to drive all my own horses, as you know, and just sort of got a little bit stale with it. And then when I went to Queensland, we took a big team of horses to Queensland. I think we had 7 or 8 in one night, and I was like, I'm just dead set not driving all them because I'm going to be under the pump gearing up. I didn't have many staff at the time, and so I put Nathan Dawson on most of them, and we had a really good night. I think got a few winners, or I just can't quite remember now, but I remember driving home that day thinking that was so much easier.
Not having to drive
didn't have to worry about driving them, gearing them up, and so probably from that day on, I was like, if I can find someone that I get along with and that we can act, I might take a bit of a backward step to the driving, concentrate more on the training.
Yeah.
And then Cam come along, we put him on a couple and had a bit of success. We hadn't really locked any one driver in. I just sort of playing. I was still driving a couple myself, and had a little bit of luck with Cam, and then sort of just snowballed on from there. And we got a few good babies, and sort of went on like Madrid and Byron and Ronnie, and
been a good run. Been a good run, mate.
Snowy.
I hope he buys you a good Christmas gift every year.
He wants one off me.
Mate, I think, but that's the thing. Like, you've equally been as good for each other over the last couple of years. That I've been in and around this game. The success has been twofold. You as a trainer, knowing that you've got, a man who's regarded as, if not the best, one of the best in the business. Charged with the responsibility of getting your horse from A to B quicker than any other horse and navigating traffic. But equally for him, he's relying on you to have that horse in tip-top shape.
Yeah, no, I just think, it's just a good combination. It works for what I like to do. I don't, early on when I was sort of half driving and half taking a backward step, I sort of get pretty nervous when I wasn't driving them and give plenty of instructions and, you know what I mean? I just sort of struggled a bit to fully let go. But then as I've sort of not been interested in driving much at all, I don't give any instructions, and I just leave Cam to it. And if he buggers up, well, it's on him, you know what I mean? Not on me. And I sort of just recently I went to Queensland and I had Delightful Angel in a race up there, and Jack Callaghan come to me and said, I think this is how we should drive. And I was like, not a chance. I said, this is how I think the race will pan out. It was the first start I give her up there. Anyway, nothing went to plan what I thought. And what Jack wanted to do, if we had gone there, she probably goes close or at least runs second. So I said, that's why I don't give instructions anymore. I said, you just got to leave it to the drivers. They're out there. They got a feel for the race. If I have to give instructions, I really shouldn't be putting the driver on.
They're switched on, these kids, aren't they?
Yeah, they're good kids, They're a good bunch of kids. Yeah. They're actually good kids to have a beer with and that sort of thing. And they're light, they're fit, and they think quick.
And they take it seriously, and so they should. It's their job, and they've set themselves up as these freelance drivers that
I think too, like they don't work any of their own horses, so they got no underlying stress. Like I'd go to the races when I was driving, and you're thinking about what happened that day. One might have broke down, or an owner give you a spray on the phone, or you got all this stuff in your head where. These kids go to the race, all they're thinking about is where they're going out that night and what Sheila's they can message, They don't have much on their plate, so they get into the races with a clear mind, and all they're thinking about's the horses they're driving, not what happened that day.
Yeah, yeah. All right, so when we get to the Eureka on September 2, I'd imagine as the trainer, someone who that you're going to have your horse in the best shape possible, and then you're going to hand it over to a bloke. I reckon you feel as good as the 10 trainers who are going to put horses on the line that night with the bloke who's going to be responsible for your horse in Cameron Hart.
Yeah, no, if we didn't think like that, we wouldn't put him on. You got to put someone on you can trust, and that you can got trust in you, and vice versa. And if for some reason Kim wasn't to drive him, there's other good drivers out there too. You know what I mean? There's plenty of young kids are driving so good at the moment with so much confidence. But Cam sort of knows how I think, and I know how he thinks. And at the end of the day, if we draw 10 in the Eureka, it wouldn't matter who's driving him. I don't think we're gonna. Well, we're gonna need a lot of luck in the barrier draw.
So what currency you put on that you just said? He knows how you think, and you know how he thinks. Like that can't be a given in this game. Like I'm sure not every trainer and every driver can say that that's the case. So there must be some currency in that, and almost like a step ahead in a way.
Yeah, no, I think just a few years that Cam's been driving for me, it's built up over them couple of years. I guess it wasn't like that early days.
Yeah.
Sort of Cam didn't know how I wanted him driven, and vice versa. I didn't know. Well, I sort of knew how Cam would drive them, fairly tough. He always drives them fairly tough.
Yeah.
He likes to go forward. It's just me having them ready for how Cam likes to drive them.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's talk about their partnership. Madrid has been such a obviously we're talking about horses that are no longer necessarily with you because Madrid's been sold and is now over in the States. What a golden run you guys had with Madrid here.
Yeah, she was a terrific horse for me. You know, like it was funny how it come about with the partnership with Travis and me. Like early on, I trained her for Frank O'Sullivan, and then Travis had a good win on the punt and had a bit of money to spend, and rang Frank up and just offered him good money, and Frank's a seller, and so he sold her, and yeah, the rest was history there, and from then on it was...
He got what he paid back and a bit more, didn't he?
Yeah, she's been a terrific... Well, he got virtually back what he paid after she won the 2-year-old final, so...
Yep.
She took us on a great ride, you know. We didn't know how she'd come back at 3, and we thought she might have just been a early jump and go 2-year-old, and she come back at 3 and then again at 4, you know, like she put in a couple of like bad performances here and there, but like she wasn't out of the money very often, and she was great for our stable to put our name out there.
You got a favourite win of hers?
Probably it wasn't one of her better ones, but the first start that I give her after Travis bought her was at Penrith, and like everyone was saying, she was probably just a leader, and I knew she wasn't. I knew she was just as good from behind, and she come from last at Penrith in the 2-year-old British Challenge final, and I mean she was beat on the bend and stuck her head out and won. And not that wasn't her best win or it wasn't her biggest win, but
it was a big performance, and I remember that one.
It was just one performance that really sticks in my head for her. I think that was the turning point that said she's just a little bit better than average, you know.
Yeah, and the owner's group, like Travis and his mates, would be here, and you know some of the endearing memories of some of Madrid's big performances and big wins in some of those Group 1 races and the big money races was the group of fellas out there really having a good time, and up against the fence, but then all getting out there for the photo and the video, and Travis being put on someone's shoulders for the presentation. Like, you know, that's the joy of racing. Like, it must be magic as a trainer to know that you've just been, you know, had played a huge part, taken a huge responsibility in making so many people so happy and so rich.
No, that's right. He loved every minute of it, and he was a terrific owner. I'd never hear from him. He didn't like me giving him updates because he said every time I'd ring him, he'd worry something was wrong. So he said, don't ring me. He said, just ring me when she's racing. And he was funny like that. If I ever rang him to say we'll go out for dinner or something like that, he goes, I was worried there was something wrong with her. You know, like, no, he is a terrific owner, and she was a great first horse, and he might be in for a few rough years now if he's expecting them all to be like that, because that was his first ever horse. So you just got to enjoy him, you know, because like for him, like she was just like it might have been a once in a lifetime horse. You know, you might not get one as good as her.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people are in the industry for a long time and don't get one like her. You know, I think she ended up leaving with about 360,000 in the bank. You know, and I think that with another season of racing under her belt here, she would have been up to the better mares. You know, she raced in the Ladyship Mile, but she probably wasn't ready for it, and she pulled up sick. She went no good, pulled up sick, and but I think another 12 months under her belt here, she would have been up to the better mares. She just needed to strengthen into it.
Yep.
Like she comes straight out of 3 and straight into the Ladyship Mile, which she went super in a qualifier. She ran second, but then in the final, I think she'd probably run a race the week before.
Wonderful to have one of our best young trainers, Jarrod Alchin, on the show with us for this special episode as we preview the TAB Eureka. Of course, one of the biggest races Jarrod will ever prep a horse for. That is on the 2nd of September at Tabcorp Park, Menangle. Make sure you get on the Club Menangle website to secure your ticket. They are free, but you do need to get online and book one to make sure you are there. There's going to be plenty on, of course, the TAB Eureka, but don't forget Birds of Tokyo will be headlining. Ricky Lee will be there doing the national anthem. It is going to be sensational. That is where we're going to end part A with Jarrod. Still lots to get through. Keep Listening Part B is available for you right now.